Joining us now in a first on CNBC interview, Jeff Lawson, Twilio CEO. Jeff, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, clearly you guys have been on a very strong run. Congratulations for that. I guess my broad first question is how long can the party go on, and to what extent is it at a kind of COVID-related boost to your last couple of quarters versus something that's structural and going to accelerate?
Well, this is a large secular tailwind. The importance of digital and digital customer engagement to every company in this digital economy is something that's gone on for the last decade and is going to go on for a long time. And obviously, if you think about how companies are winning the hearts, minds, and wallets of customers in this digital economy, it's by building better experiences in mobile apps, in websites, and actually engaging with customers across all the touch points they have. And you think about the companies that you do business with, you say, wow, I really like that company. They tend to be the companies who are doing really well at digital execution these days. And those people are our customers. We now have over 220,000 companies in our customer base, and they represent companies in pretty much every vertical sector, continent that you can imagine. Both the digital disruptors as well as the incumbents in every industry are having to embrace digital, and they're our customers.
The customer addition numbers are very impressive, Jeff. To what extent is the size and type of company changing, though? And again, are you adding more, but perhaps lower quality, smaller size at this stage?
Well, actually, I think quite the opposite. We're adding some amazing customers to our roster. If you look at who we were able to talk about in our earnings call this week, we talked about J.P. Morgan Chase adopting Twilio to power part of their customer experience. We talked about H&R Block adopting multiple of Twilio products to build an amazing customer experience for tax filers. And so there's been a growth of the enterprise adoption of Twilio, and we've seen that trend for a while now, and we like to see it continue. I think it was interesting, actually, last quarter, talking about financial services. We see the adoption of Twilio by both digital disruptors and the incumbents in every industry alike. And so we had a Fortune 50 bank that adopted Twilio last quarter, or in the Q3 earnings call. And we also had Robinhood. And so you've got everybody who needs to embrace digital, both the startups as well as the incumbents. And when they do, they're all turning to Twilio, and that's good.
Well, it's good to hear that Robinhood is using you, because it sounds like they could use some good communication with their users. Jeff, I actually had a question about one of the other industries which has been harder hit, travel and leisure. I know the exposure there is not huge for you. It hasn't really been a weight, but you do have a peak. Are you seeing signs of life now that people are getting vaccinated?
Well, obviously, we've seen air travel and hospitality start to pick up. And I think it's a slow path to get back to what it was in the pre-COVID times. But, we are seeing those industries pick up. And what's interesting is even for those affected industries, they have had to really invent their way through this pandemic too. They've had to figure out, how am I going to keep my customers engaged through this pandemic when they're not taking as many flights, or maybe any, or not staying in hotels anymore? But how do I actually maintain that loyalty? How do I make customers know that I'm here, that we're safe, and we're ready for their business as soon as they're ready to be our customers again? And so there's been a whole new set of activities that a lot of those hospitality companies have had to do in order to react to the pandemic as well.
What is the $1.5 billion raising for? And separately, how's the segment integration going?
The fundraise is just to have a healthy balance sheet. For a company of our size and our market cap and our growth rate, we wanted to make sure our balance sheet was right-sized. The segment acquisition is going fantastically. First of all, a great team. So the first thing you do when you start integrating is a lot of the cultural things. But as we've started to dig in with those teams, right, you start to see, look, every company out there is trying to grow. And you do that by understanding your customers, who they are, and then engaging with them in a really compelling way. And the way companies do that, especially B2C companies, is by taking the data about their customers that they have based on what you've bought, what you've looked for on the website, what you've used in the mobile app, when you've contacted support. Take all those data points that a company has and use it to forge a better customer experience about you. And that's what Segment does. They help companies take the data that's trapped in all those silos of all those systems that typically is really hard for companies to make sense of. They liberate that data. They let you form a full picture of your customer based on every touch point you have with them. And then using Twilio, engage with those customers in a better and more compelling way. So we're really excited for what the future holds.
I just had a question on the current quarter. It looked like political traffic revenue was a driver of growth, maybe one that people didn't see necessarily coming. What was that? Was that the election? And is that something that's repeatable?
Well, we are used by political campaigns to do things like get out the vote and to mobilize voters as part of the advocacy that goes on as a part of a democracy. We did call it out. It's more of a one-time thing for, the election cycle. We saw, I think it was $23 million in the quarter. So we called it out and said, hey, don't expect that to repeat in the next quarter because that's a kind of a one-time thing because of the election cycle. But actually, elections have been a part of our revenue base pretty much every 2 years here in the United States since we started the company.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.